It is becoming increasingly difficult to keep pace with the growing economy. Power cuts and load shedding have become common and order of the day.
Current is there already, we just have to close. We cannot run the machine without power at all. We are all living in hopes. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಾವು ಬರೋ ವರ್ಷ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಲೇ ಹೋಪ್ಸಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಏನು ಹೋಪ್ಸ್ ಕಂಡಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಡಿಲ್ಲ.
Thus, the power shortage has begun to tell on the health of Indian economy. In addition, the mass of humanity everywhere has begun to depend on varied sources of energy as economic functions are multiplying and lifestyles changing. And people are finding it difficult to meet the ever-increasing demands on these sources of energy. The most extensively utilized hydroelectric power in our various industrial and economic sectors is in short supply. There is power cut everywhere. Decline in industrial production, stunted economic growth, and loss of revenue are leading to layouts and retrenchments all over. Even the agricultural operations are affected. The situation is pretty bad. But what's the solution?
The power situation in the country is quite critical. There is a power crisis in India. This is because the gap between the demand and supply has been going on increasing. It's estimated that the energy shortage is about 12%, and the peaking shortage is double, say about 25% or so. And this will continue for quite some time. And as you know, there are breakdowns, there are load sheddings and power cuts. This situation will continue if we depend upon the conventional sources of energy as at present. Therefore, we must think in terms of alternative sources of energy.
Yes, there are other alternative sources of energy like solar, wind, thermal and microhydro, which can be developed. And one of them is biomass. Biomass is an eco-friendly system for electricity generation through biomass gasification, the technology for which has been developed at the Indian Institute of Science and commercialized by NetPro Renewables, Bangalore. There are other designs developed and marketed by Messrs. Ankur Scientific and Engineering Technologies, Baroda, and Associated Engineering Works at Tanaku in Andhra Pradesh.
By biomass, we basically mean such as agro-residues, sugarcane trash, bagas, rice husk, the shell of groundnut, coir pith. These are some of the biomass alternative sources.
One normally is not aware of the extent of biomass that is available in our country. It is estimated that nearly 300 to 400 million tons of renewable biomass is available every year. Even if you take nearly 1/4, that is 25% of this biomass availability, it will be a huge quantity which can be converted into energy. The estimate is somewhere about 12,000 megawatts of electricity which can be installed from these biomass.
I would like to know the return on investment on this venture and also the cost-benefit ratio using biomass as a source of energy production.
The biomass-based energy generation systems are the least costly of all the other renewable systems. It costs only about 5% of the cost of solar photovoltaics and just about half of microhydels and wind energy and all that.
Let's look at the cost of installation of a typical 100 kilowatt plant. The solar photovoltaic costs 35 to 40 million rupees, wind 4 to 4.5 million rupees, microhydel 4 to 5 million rupees, coal-based thermal plant 3.5 to 4 million rupees, and biomass mere 2 million rupees.
You mentioned agro-waste. Aren't there other bioresources which could be used for electricity generation?
Yes, there are other wastes also apart from agro residues and agro waste. For instance, you have the press mud from the sugar factories, you have the distillery effluents, you have the urban areas, the sewage waste. India is the biggest producer of sugarcane in the world. We produce about 250 million tons of sugarcane. 30% of sugarcane is dry matter called bagasse, and this can be used for electricity generation in the same sugar factories. The advantage here is the loss, what we call the transmission and distribution loss, will be much less in these systems.
Research, hard work, laboratory experiments, brainstorming sessions and discussions, which started in the mid-80s at Combustion, Gasification and Propulsion Laboratory at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, has shown that harnessing biomass for generating energy, even in today's level of advanced technology, is a better way of developing alternative sources of energy. After long field trials, innumerable modifications and innovations, which were carried out at the Indian Institute of Science, a major breakthrough in power generation has been achieved. As an example, the wood gasify technology developed at the IISc is in demonstration here. This gasifier technology converts woody material and solid agricultural waste such as wood chips, coconut shells, corn cobs and the like into gaseous fuel using a thermochemical process. The gaseous fuel can then be burned for heating or fed to the internal combustion engine to generate electricity. The key to the whole system is a specially designed reactor inside which the wood chips or other biomass material undergo a two-stage process. In the first stage, which occurs in the upper part of this reactor, the biomass partially burns in air, drawn through the open top, producing charcoal and gases. In the second stage, which happens in the lower part of the reactor, at temperatures over 1200 to 1400 degrees centigrade, the charcoal reduces CO2 and water to carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Some methane and other hydrocarbons are also generated. This gas mixture, which is combustible, typically contains around 18% hydrogen, 19% carbon monoxide, about 1% methane, about 12% carbon dioxide, and the balance being nitrogen. The open-top gasifier reactor design has several advantages. The hot gases passing through the outer annular chamber transfers its heat to the biomass in the inner chamber. As a result, the reactor can use wood chips with a moisture content as high as 25%. The gas generated during the gasification process is free of all tar. The combustible gas from the reactor is cooled to ambient temperature to increase its density and pass through a series of filters to reduce the particulate matter it contains. This particularly impressed the Swiss.
The 275 kilowatt wood gasifier for thermal rating has been set up in Switzerland in the first phase with the gas being burnt in the flare and with the idea of taking it to the engine in the second phase of the activity. This has been located at Châtel-Saint-Denis, a village in the southern part of Switzerland. This was in lieu of the program what we did in Bangalore between the Indo-Swiss exchange program for testing the gasifier at Indian Institute of Science. And in this program we have successfully demonstrated that a pine wood with even moisture content up to about 25% can be gasified, and you get a gas which can be energized for internal combustion engine.
Developing countries, including India, which have a fair population living in small and scattered villages, can benefit enormously by these biomass technologies. Ungra, a village about 110 kilometers away from Bangalore, and Hosahalli, another small village about 130 kilometers from Bangalore, where wood gasify systems of 20 kilowatts each have been installed. These systems are meeting the power requirements for irrigation, lighting, flour milling and water supply. These villages depend on their own power supply and not on state electricity board.
ಈ ಏರಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಡ್ರೈಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಏರಿಯಾ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಳೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಬೇರೆ ನೀರಿನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇಲ್ಲವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಲಬರಿ ಬೆಳಿಬಹುದು, ಇಪ್ಪನೇರಳೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಪ್ಪನೇರಳೆ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಆದಾಯ ಇದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ.
ಎಲ್ಲ ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯಿಂದಲೇ, ಈಗ ಮನೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯಿಂದಲೇ, ಬೋರ್ ಕೊರೆಸಿದ್ದು ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯಿಂದಲೇನ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ನಾವು ಮುಂದುವರೆದಿರೋದೇ ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ. ಇವತ್ತೇನೋ ಒಡವೆ ವಸ್ತು ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಮಗದೊಂದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದು ರೇಷ್ಮೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯಿಂದಲೇ. ನಮಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ಯಾವುದೂ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು.
Insofar the technology development is concerned, we have been able to bring it up to world class in terms of its quality, and so we have no difficulty in anticipating the possibility of establishing a large number of these plants all over the country. We have been supported in the research and development effort from the Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy Sources in part, and from other sources at different periods of time. At the moment, we have transferred the technology to a private industry, and we believe therefore the infrastructure will get developed as time progresses, because these things will develop depending on the demand. See, the development of this technology is essentially three elements are required. The use of fundamental sciences, chemistry, fluid flow interactions, plus modeling effort is one element. In designing the various elements, we have to pay attention to fine details. And also, we should have the ability to listen to criticism from users and others who look at the system. I think we have had the integration of all these aspects over a period of time, and the result of that is the development of a world-class technology.
The fact that Indian Institute of Science biomass gasified based electricity generation systems have been in daily use in 2 villages for the past couple of years testifies to the soundness of this technology. The villagers have grown their own little forests near their villages, from where they have been collecting the woody biomass for the last several years and running the gasifiers to meet their power requirements. The advantages of adopting these biomass technologies are many. Social forestry can be encouraged, green belts generated, and power produced on a viable basis.
In these circumstances, that we have to think alternative systems of energy like biomass. Especially when we have the technology for biomass available, we should make use of that. And these technologies are now commercially viable.
Electricity generated through biomass technology can be serviced in far-off islands where large quantity of diesel is used in running generator sets. Remote hamlets and villages in the forest where getting clearance for arranging grid lines is both difficult and uneconomical. Biomass energy can also be used in tea and coffee plantations where large amount of bioresidue is handled for water pumping operations and drying processes. In replacing furnace oil in industries and industries in rural environment. Look at the comparative costs of various energy systems. Solar photovoltaic costs 8 to 12 rupees per unit, solar thermal 4 to 6 rupees per unit, wind 2 to 3 rupees per unit, whereas microhydel, bioresource and thermal core systems cost 1 rupee 50 paise to 2 rupees 50 paise per unit. Even the gestation period for functioning of the bioresource-based energy system is much shorter compared to all other systems. Industrialists and administrators can learn from this experience that encouraging the use of biomass in a sustainable way is perhaps the most benign way of extracting energy in an environment-friendly way.